My name is Tajay Isel. I am, getting the interview done for Life's Canvas.
My name is Roderick J. Davis. I am from Lorain, Ohio.
They are the people who I consider to be very, very great minds and young people. I consider them to be thinkers and very creative. Some of the things they say and do provoke a lot of thought. So I'd like to introduce Life's Canvas. Talk to people.
How'd I get into poetry? It's funny because, that's an awesome question. I don't really know if I have the answer for that. It started when I want to say the first thing I ever wrote was maybe when I was 7 or 8. And then I just kind of went forward with it. But poetry really started for me when I used to do a lot of poetry at my old church. And it will always be for holidays, special occasions, Black History Month, Easter, Christmas, Mother's Day, and all that. And so that's just honestly how it started. I can't remember. I can't really pinpoint a time and tell you what made me pick up a pen and a pad. I can't remember. Can't really tell you what pushed me to do it. As far as back as I can remember, it's just I remember one day, I'm a kid playing around. Next day, I'm reading this poem in church, and then I've been writing poetry ever since. It's just like it was always there, kind of second nature. So I want to say I found out that poetry was a gift around about, I'll say I was 11 or 12. I can't remember exactly, but it was Black History Month. It's February, and in Black churches, usually a Black History program we put on have services. So I got up there, little old me at the time, and I think my terribly fitted black suit, I don't remember. But I got up there, and so I read this poem, and this poem was called I Refuse. And literally the whole context of the poem was me saying what I refuse to do. And I said, I refuse to, let basically the premise of the poem was me saying I refuse to let everything my ancestors did go in vain for my freedoms and my liberties. So I went on to say I refuse this, refuse that. That was the whole context. And then when I was over, everybody in that church, the church backed out, but everybody stood up. Everybody was amazed. People were coming to me talking about, well, you should get published. You should really do this, and blah, 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 blah. And then I really knew I had it in good because, it's one thing when you display your talents to older people and all that. They're usually supportive whether you're good or bad. But then my peers was there, so I was like, oh, man, they probably going to try to clown me because, I'm doing something, actually creative and whatnot. And I don't know why, but, when you're a kid, you always get clowned to, oh, you up there singing, or, oh, you doing this. But unless it's sports, ain't nothing else you do is cool. You always get played for it. But I knew when my brother's friends and her sister, and they walked up to me, he was like, wow, Roderick, that was so, so good. And I wish I could do something like that. And that was really good and amazing. When they said that, I was like, oh, okay. I was like, if I got approval from my peers, I was like, I'm on to something here. So I was like, well, let me just keep riding this wave, man. So thus, here we are today, 11 years later. My favorite poem so far is a poem that is entitled Casanova, the 2015 Fable. It is a poem that you all have not heard yet, but will shortly. And the reason that it's my favorite poem is because poetry is always really deep and rooted, and you really reach inside of yourself. But I think when it comes to that poem, I've never been more honest with detailing actual story. I really spelled out as vividly as I could remember me in the situation, my mindset, why I was doing things I was doing, being misunderstood and why I was doing things I was doing, and then, being older and recalling back like, man, I did all these extra things. On surface, it looked like it was for this reason, it looked like it was fun, it looked like I was just going along, but no, like I was doing all this underlying with these issues. And I'd get real raw and real with myself. As one of those mirror talks, and I was like, man, I love this. Like this finally me speaking my own truth to myself. And also the metaphors in there. I try not to toot my own horn about things like that, but I feel like I used some really, really good metaphors in there, and I was like, wow. Every time I go back and reread it, I'm like, I wrote this. Like, this is something I wish I'd wrote, and I'm like, oh my god, I did actually write it. So I'm like, this is the one. So yeah, that's my favorite poem, and that is the reason why. I would just say, like, if there's a certain sound I hear, like there could be a song I could hear, and I could just hear like a guitar rhythm in it or a bass, and it just might just take me on a little trip, and I might be like, you know what, I'm just gonna write like whatever I'm feeling. I don't know what this feeling is yet, but by the end of this poem, I'm gonna know what I'm feeling, so I just write. Or also, what inspires is again the other aspect of life is just my reality. I tend to be a person that thinks from all sides of the spectrum. I never just wholeheartedly think about this is just my stance on it. I may be stubborn in my stance, but I always see things from the whole perspective of the side. So usually when I write poetry, it's me analyzing it from okay, I'm expressing my frustration with this thing because usually a lot of it boils out of frustration. I'm expressing my frustration with this thing, but at the same token, how are the people like me suffering from this? What have I heard that was said to me that I may have impacted somebody else, or maybe worsened somebody's life, or edified somebody's life, or what did this mode or this thought put me into this place? And it's just always a journey that inspires my pen. It's always a journey through my own mind, recalling, events, present and past, and even future things I want to do, and just really trying to get the grasp of, what are all these feelings mixed in here. What inspires me is tackling those gray areas. Some things in life are black and white, but hardly are most things ever. It's just a lot of gray areas, and there's a whole bunch of different shades of gray. You just pick your shade. And so that is really what inspires that, tackling that gray area. Like, I'm usually floating right here. I'm dark gray today, maybe I'm light gray tomorrow. You may be dark gray all the time, but we're all in this gray area trying to make our grays fit each other, and it's always usually a collision or a disagreement. But those gray areas as the biggest inspiration behind my poetry, I would say. Scattered Thoughts 57. Okay. So I'll go on record and say this. It's funny talking about this poem because honestly, even though I just not too long ago released that poem, I wrote that a long time ago. So when you do art or perform something that you wrote, I mean, it's the same thing with a song. If you perform a song or do something and it happened with emotion associated a long time ago, you gotta think about somebody that sings a breakup song, So Marion, prime example, all people know this song. He did a song called Icebox. Icebox was a hit back then. It's still cool now. But I'm pretty sure 2019, if he's saying Icebox now, it's not the same feelings associated with that, but you still got to convey that. And you got to let that kind of take you backwards and trip your mind. So it's funny talking about Scattered Thoughts 57 because when I'm trying to convey the emotion of this poetry, it's like I still feel it, but it's like, man, I forgot I was in this place at that time where I am now. But the story behind that is basically, whenever I do Scattered Thoughts, it's literally just the thoughts that run through my mind and I have to get it all on paper. And so whatever I'm going through in that moment, it's all coming out. I mean, that poem, I know more specifically, it had a lot to do with my parents and maybe I would say my issues there, or maybe lack thereof, or, how I feel about this. Do I feel bad? Do I feel good? Or do I feel indifferent? It did a whole lot of areas around that. But it really could have just embodied anything I was feeling at the time. I mean, there's some scattered thoughts I wrote where in the past though, especially during high school, where I would just go from liking something to talk about what I love, talk about what I don't feel like I'm worthy of, to feel like things I want to let go of, feel like things I want to gain, things I want to learn, things I want to forget, all in one poem. And so it's more liberating than any of the rest. I mean, I know I said earlier the Fable, Casanova 2015 Fable is my favorite poem, but Scattered Thoughts is liberating. It's like basically you take your diary and you just put it out there. It's hard, you got to be vulnerable on a stage, but it's basically it's like the diary beyond a diary. Like you can write in a diary and your thoughts because you're chronicling what you're going through. But when you do it in poetry and it's a scattered thought, the way I think of it in my mind, it's like, okay, these are the things that you're not trying to say to yourself, or the things that are really in the back of your mind, but now that you got it on paper, you can't ignore it anymore. So you can't just deal with what's in the forefront of your mind, or what happened that day, or what's happened in the past few weeks. You got to deal with stuff that you tried to forget and tried to bury, and now it's time to address it. So that is definitely the story behind Scared Thoughts 57. I want people to be impacted. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it at least once or twice in my poetry, but I always, excuse me, not once or twice in each poem. I'm pretty sure every other 3 poems I mention it, but I just want people to empathize. See, my thing is, I am not the most sympathetic person. Like, sometimes if I haven't been in your shoes or situation, it's very hard for me to, I can feel bad for you, but like, to try to bring that comfort and that advice, it's like, I'm in a weird area. But when I've been through somebody's situation, I can actually empathize with them. I'm all on it. I got it covered. So a lot of times when I do poetry, it's like, you know what? I don't ever try to pull any punches. I don't ever try to put a blanket over it. I go as deep and as far as I can go, because I feel like there's a lot of things that aren't addressed. Like when I talk about indecisiveness, people talk about everything else being a problem. You know, people always say, well, you know, maybe you're drunk, maybe you're addicted to drugs, or maybe you cheat all the time, maybe you lie all the time. But indecisiveness is a real issue. I can't be the only person in the world that's ever been double-minded in a lot of different situations. Or day to day, it's like, I want to be this way, but I want to do this at the same time. Or most of your life has always been a split decision. I cannot be the only person that feels that way. But nobody addresses it, and nobody feels like it's an issue. And so I talk about those things. You know, I'm not the only person that is broke in the world, or excuse me, I don't claim being broke, because that's more of a mindset, but have financial struggles. But see, the thing is though, people don't look at it like it's an issue or a disease. Like, this is what's really affecting my community. Like, we have financial issues, so people want to get on black people, or any of my other peers I know that may not be black. They want to get on us because it's like, you know, y'all do this, or, you know, this person over here, why are they drinking, or why would they say it's okay to do crime, or why would you do this thing for money here? But you don't understand here in the circumstances what a lack of financial support will push you to. You'll feel like, okay, well, I need to go this direction, or I need to choose this direction. Or maybe if your morality keeps you from even trying to have those ideas, you like, I just want to escape my consciousness, so let me turn this bottle or turn these pills or whatnot. Now, we should turn to God in those times. But again, like I said, I push that boundaries in my poetry. I'm embodying not just myself, I'm empathizing with my community and people that have been through things like I do. Not everybody turns to the Lord. And even people that are believers, sometimes we wobble off a little bit and turn to other things. And I've been in that situation. You know, when I was going through the stuff I did in college, it wasn't a whole lot of prayer. It was a few times I had a lot of hard crying and repentance, but I mean, it was a lot of, you know, let me go to this party here, or let me go sit in this dorm and talk to my friends there, or let me try this new drug here, because why not? I mean, this is just real life. These things that happen. So what I really want people to have to take away from my poetry is, you know, listen to my stories, know what they are. Don't use this ammunition against me. Don't use it to be like, wow, Roger, I can't believe you did this. I'm only being this honest and availing things because it's like, look, I've been through this stuff. You don't got to go through it too, but just know that if you have been through it, you're not the only person, and it's easy to overcome it. Excuse me, not easy. It's possible to overcome it, and then you redirect that approach and just use it for something positive to highlight a overall, I say the greater goal at the end of it, or just a bigger, basically that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We all always go through a ton of different things, but don't let that situation defeat you. Take that away from the poetry. With my insane work ethic and my partner's work ethic as well, but on top of my insanity that I also push her to her drive and my overburdenedness, Life's Canvas in a few years will be amazing. It will be great. It'll be on a global scale. Global. That's bigger than national, international. Yep. So it'll be on a global scale. I mean, you could probably be checking this out in Antarctica, to be honest. But I mean, this is not going to fail. It's just not. It's not about me being cocky. It's not about feeling like, you know, oh, well, I'm going to do this and can't nobody stop me. It's not even a vendetta. It's none of that. The reason why Life's Canvas has to be that big and it's going to succeed like that is simply because of this. God has given us gifts, and gifts are great. And like I said before, I don't brag on myself a lot, but I do analyze things and always give truth and fairness. my writing is amazing. My partner's writing is amazing. It's no way that it's not going to grow to the level it does. And the thing is, though, it's the goal behind it. We're not just writing these poems in vanity just to be like, oh, look at us. We can do this. We can do this. There's other talents we have, but we don't sit here and flaunt those either. Just say, look at me. We can do those easily and be like, well, look at me. But it's really about the impact and the message behind it all. We're using our talents to gather others and let them know, like, hey, y'all, we're here with y'all. Reach out to us. We're here with you. Do what we do. Redirect that negative thing that happened in your life and put it towards something positive. And that's why it's just going to have to grow. I mean, yeah, right now you can look in the present and be like, well, I mean, who are you reaching now? Who's going to see it now? I mean, okay, yeah, it may start with just 100, 200, it may start 50, but it always grows. All it takes is for that one person to see it. It's like a forest fire. All it takes is one spark. You think like, okay, how did this forest fire start? You might think somebody just came over with 50 gallons of just pre-made fire and dumped it. No, it's always just one little twig that sparks or something, and then the whole forest is lit for days on end. And it's kind of like that. Right now, we're in a stage where it's like we're going forward, God is on our side. It's just this little spark, but at least that ember is burning. And it's not going to go out. So once that spark lights on that tree and that tree catches the next tree, it's a whole forest fire in a positive way. So I definitely see Life's Canvas being huge. Oh, also because there's a ton of other things I can't disclose that we do, but I mean, it's just gonna be huge regardless. It's just too destined to be. That's what it is, and you can take that to the bank, cause I take that word straight from God. So I'm not worried. So yeah, Life's Canvas, big deal. Us, forever on. Boom, at you. Any last words? Like I said in the beginning, my name is Roderick Davis. I'll leave out my initial this time. And just take away from this interview, just showing y'all more of ourselves. I mean, I know a lot of times we get into the poetry and we talk about a lot of dark things, but let's just put a disclaimer. One, no, I'm not sad all the time. I laugh a lot every single day. I'm tired. I work a lot, but that's neither here nor there. We're not going that rant. But I'm not sad every day. These are just things that come up in life and they need to be addressed, and going with deep poetry leaves more of an impact. I could write light, airy, and fun times and stuff and talk about the time I played in the snow, but I mean, it makes you feel good in the moment, but is it going to change your life? And that's the whole goal. We're reaching underneath that skin and that surface layer and digging into the heart, because it's for the point to change your life. And, you know, whether it be through our actual real life experiences, whether it be like a story we construct, because we do all that too, story writing and storytelling, constructing, whether it be a series we put together, as far as, you know, this poem part 1 and part 2 and part 3, all of it works together, and just the goal is to let that be a spark, not just to change your life, but also be an inspiration to you. Like, look at, tap into the creativity that you have, because we're always going to use every little ounce of creativity we have and put it on display. So you do the same. And that's, yeah, I feel positive on that. I just want to leave it right there. Just tap into that creativity and use all you got.
Poetry is an outlet, it's an escape. Poetry is a safe place of where you can retell the things that hurt you. Poetry is a revisit without the hurt. Poetry to me is the deep, it's the love, it's the pain, it's the hurt, it's the happy. Poetry is basically the expression of your life. Poetry is getting everything out of there, getting everything out of you, getting all that anger out, getting all that sadness out, all your feelings, all your emotions out. It's getting everything out to just express with the world. That's what poetry is to me. The thing that inspires me is just every day something inspires me to write poetry. If I'm walking out the door, walking down the street, something might spark a memory to where I'm like, that makes me feel some type of way, or that's made me feel some type of way before. Let me write it down, let me express it, let me say how it made me feel then, let me say how it makes me feel now. Is everywhere is an inspiration to me. So. My poem "Let Me Brag." That was a very touching poem for me. It took me a lot of years to talk about it or talk about anything in that poem with people. You know, I've told multiple people, but you know, I've never expressed it with the world like, hey, this is my testimony, let me share it with you. I've never done that before. And I thought, you know, now that we have this platform and people are watching us, and I hope we're inspiring people, I'm thinking like, you know, I have this testimony that I've been sitting on for years, so why not express it? Why not tell people about it? Why not go into detail like, hey, yeah, I was doing this, I was doing that, but here I am now. Let Me Brag was basically about, you know, me coming up, teenage years. I was relying on substance. I was drinking. I was partying. I was coming to school high. I was basically just out here. I thought I was living life. I was having relations with different females, 1, 2, 3, it didn't matter. Like, I was just out here. I thought I was living my best life, but my life never clicked. Like, no matter what I was doing, no matter how popular I was, no matter how many people wanted to be around me, no matter how many people thought highly of me, it's like nothing was clicking in my life. Nothing felt complete. There was always something missing. And it's like I'm doing all these things and I know they're not right. I know it in my heart they're not right. I know it. Nobody has to tell me, but this is what I like right now. So it took me a while to get to the point where I'm like, Lord, I need your help. I need to get out of this. Like, you need to bring me out of this. And it took a long time. It took a lot of prayers, took a lot of praising, took a lot of long nights, but you know, the Lord brought me through and he brought me out, and I just have to brag on him about it because it was to a point where everybody said that it's impossible for me not to be like that anymore. Nobody had faith in me. So when the Lord did his thing and brought me out, it's just like I have to brag on him because he did what people said was impossible. My favorite so far, actually, is one that people haven't heard of. It's called You Don't Know My Name, and it's basically about me and discussing the differences between different parts or different sides of my families. Like, you know, the difference between me and the Heisel side, the difference between me and the Hannibals, the difference between me and the Boykins. I just get into every side on, you know, different family situations and the differences between the three. So that right now is my favorite one because I can really dig into the differences. But so far, yeah, that's my favorite one so far. I'm saying so far because like my partner said, every day we're growing. So I can write something in 2 days that could top everything, and that might be my favorite. So I have a few talents. I can film, you know. That's actually something I've been kind of more into lately, filming. I write stories. I tried to write a book, but that's not where my heart led me. So I just said I'm not doing that. But I do want to be a screenwriter, you know, one day. So I feel like one of my talents is screenwriting. There were some talents that I had that I knew how to do. I just stopped doing them. So I mean, I can kind I can kind of do it, but it's not really a complete thing. Like, I can kind of play the keyboard, but if you put it in front of me and say, play this song, couldn't do it for you. But I can kind of play it. It's a talent that I should probably get back into to learn more, but I can do it. I got a few talents that I like that, you know. I can rap too. You know, I wouldn't call myself a rapper. I'm not calling myself a rapper, but I can rap too. You know, I used to spit a few bars in high school. It's like, no, I had a whole group and everything. I had a whole group, but I can rap when serious. I can make songs. I can songwrite, so. Poetry has always been number one, because poetry has always been the talent that I didn't really struggle with. I mean, I might get writer's block, but I never struggled with it. It was like kind of like second nature. Well, actually, I would say if I'm doing a scale, I would say poetry is probably number one, and right under it is screenwriting. But because I started off screenwriting in the 3rd grade, that's what I started writing, like with my pen. Like, that's when I started being creative with screenwriting. It wasn't until I was in the 9th grade that I started dabbling in poetry. I remember I got my heart broken. And one thing about me is I can express myself, but sometimes it's just very hard for me to find the words. It's very hard for me to do it. So I remember I got my heart broken, and I was so sad. And I was listening to this song. I'm sure everybody knows it. I forgot her name. I want to say her name was Corinne Riley. Anyway, the song is called Like a Star. And there was an instrumental on YouTube, and I kept listening to it, and then words started to flow. But these weren't rap. This wasn't a rap. I wasn't singing. Words just started to flow. And as I'm done, I'm like, I just legit just wrote this whole poem. And I recorded myself doing it. And I remember coming to school the next day, and at lunch, all my friends were at the table. And I was like, y'all, listen to this. And my friends were like, they gonna tell you if something suck or not. So I was kind of scared, but I'm like, y'all, listen to this. They listened to it. I got a lot of positive feedback. And it's like, since then I was like, I mean, I did it, but I didn't really try to do it. So I'm like, well, let me actually try to do this next one. And then that's kind of where the poetry started to flow from. When I die, when it comes to my poetry, I just want the world to remember what I said. I just want the world to remember what I expressed. And I want the world to have taken away something from it. I mean, because people can remember lyrics all the time. Like, there are plenty of artists who have passed that I remember their songs, but I never took anything away from it. They're just lyrics. As far as there are also other artists who have passed that I remember the lyrics and that I have taken a lot from it. So it's like, I want to be like that. Like, take something from what I'm saying. Like, I want to be able to inspire people that when the day that I do pass, somebody can read my poem and be like, man, that touched me. Or somebody can tell somebody else, hey, you know, I read her poem before, it touched me, inspired me, I'm doing this now because it was such an inspiration. I just want to inspire, I just want to be an inspiration. It's not about being the best. It's never about being the best to me, because that would be like I'm trying to use my gift as a gain when that's not really what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to use my gift in a vain way. I'm just really trying to reach people. I'm really trying to reach and inspire people and spark a mind and just let somebody take something away. I don't want people to go through the same emotions, the same feelings, the same incidents, the same situations that I went through, because I remember them vividly and they didn't feel good at all. And I would hate to see somebody else go through that. So if I can prevent that by letting somebody know, hey, I went through it, this is how I came out, you can too. If I can do that, then my job is done. So I'm just happy to be here. It was a long time that it took me to express my poetry with the world. Like I said, I expressed it with a couple friends and they heard a couple things, but that's about 4 people at the time. You know, I expressed it with, you know, a couple people at times, but it's like I've never been on a platform to express my poems, to actually say my poems, because I always felt like, well, maybe they're just not good. Like I'm writing them and I know they're good, but I don't wanna get the critique or people saying like, man, her poems suck. So I really tried to, you know, escape a lot of that. I really tried to not bring this forth because I didn't want to deal with a lot of criticism. But you get to a point and you get people around you that push you and they motivate you and they tell you, hey, you know, there's always going to be a point in your life where people are going to criticize you. So you got to get out there. You can't keep being scared to express your talents. You can't keep being scared to express yourself. So, like I said, I'm just happy to be here because if I didn't have certain people around me, certain influences, certain motivators, then, you know, I'd still be writing poetry notes on my phone and they would never make it to the internet. People would never know I could write. It'd just be there. So, yeah, I'm happy to be here.